The movie begins in the middle of the ocean, where we see a man named Zhang on a boat. After retiring from the military, Zhang is now working with his friends to catch fish in order to support his family. After 7 long months, he finally returns home only to find his restaurant locked and his wife missing. A neighbor tells him, "Zhang, your wife has become an addict. She's living in terrible condition under the bridge." Shocked by this, Zhang immediately sets out to find his wife. When he does, he finds her in a severely deteriorated state. A flashback reveals that a few months ago, some thugs had visited their restaurant. They gave his wife alcohol laced with heroin, leading her to become addicted. To feed her addiction, she began selling everything she owned. When the money ran out, she was left wandering the streets. Under the influence of drugs, she once failed to look after their daughter properly, leading to the child tragically being hit and killed by a truck. Back in the present, his wife is overwhelmed with guilt and climbs onto a ledge to end her life. Zhang tries to stop her, promising to take her to a rehab center and help her recover. But despite his efforts, she jumps, leaving Zhang devastated. The story jumps ahead by 2 years. A police officer named Andu conducts a raid targeting drug trafficking. During the raid, he finds a large number of drug packets and seizes them. As he's arresting some goons, a man appears and takes all the packets except for 2, saying that 2 are enough for evidence, and the rest need to go back to Makund, the city's biggest drug lord. Andu is frustrated but helpless, as Makund is so powerful that even with 1 foot in the grave, his drug empire is thriving. Soon after, Makund's right-hand man, Haida, informs him about his illegitimate son, Song, who is in jail. Years ago, Makund had abandoned Sawang's mother, and as a result, Song grew up to be a notorious gangster, brutal, ruthless, and feared. But Makund is unfazed and instructs Haida to bring Song back no matter what. We then cut to a jail somewhere in the Philippines. While Song is sleeping, a few guards come in and poison him with food. Song dies, but in his place, Zhang steps in, disguising himself with Sawang's prison uniform and a bit of facial makeup to resemble him. Zhang assumes Sawang's identity. The next day, he exits the prison as Song. On his way to Makund, Zhang meets Andu, and it is revealed that Andu hired Zhang to infiltrate Makund's drug empire and expose it. Zhang agrees because he wants revenge for his daughter and wife's death, all of which stemmed from the drug trade. Meanwhile, Makund is seen talking to a trusted business partner named In Pei, who is actually the chief police commissioner. Andu arrives at Makund's mansion, and we find out that In Pei is his uncle. Also present is In Pei's young mistress Nancy. Andu notices her and teases, "Uncle gave you his blessing again?" To which Nancy replies, "No, it was my own fault." From Andu's reaction, we can tell he has feelings for Nancy. Soon, Zhang arrives at the mansion and immediately goes on a rampage, brutally attacking one of Makund's men. Makund stops the fight and is overjoyed to see his son. Still cautious, he secretly takes a sample of Zhang's blood and sends it for a DNA test. That evening, during a grand party, the fake DNA results arrive, confirming that Zhang is indeed his son. Makund is fully convinced and introduces Zhang to everyone as his heir, even giving him the sacred Buddha necklace, symbolizing that if anything happens to him, Zhang will take over the empire. The next day, Zhang begins his work. He targets a drug dealer named Bell who had stolen some of their product. Zhang shows up with his gang and delivers a brutal beating to Bell and his men. Just as he's about to kill Bell, Bell pleads for his life and promises to be loyal. Zhang returns home and dramatically presents Bell and the stolen goods to Makund, who is thoroughly impressed. Zhang not only recovered the drugs, but also subdued the enemies, earning Makund's full trust. Makund shares the entire operation with Zhang, revealing the locations of their drug production facilities. Zhang visits the factories with Bell and crafts a strategy that boosts production efficiency and profits significantly. Later, he meets with Andu and shares the locations of the factories, shipping routes, and more. Andu, however, tells him it's not enough. Makund has a private vault that contains large sums of black money and documents exposing corrupt officials. Makund's strength comes from his partnership with In Pei, the police commissioner. Andu suggests Zhang should create a rift between them. That evening, Zhang visits In Pei for dinner and tells him that from now on, instead of receiving 40% profit, he'll only get 10%. In Pei is stunned and refuses, saying he follows Makund's orders, not Zhang's. In response, Zhang calmly shows him a video of In Pei murdering someone and threatens to leak it if he asks for more than 10%. Enraged, In Pei arrests Zhang and throws him in jail, forgetting that Zhang is now seen as the son of a powerful drug lord. Soon, Bell and his men attack the police station to free Zhang. In Pei calls Makund and says, "Look at what your son is doing," causing Makund to suffer a health crisis. Simultaneously, a bomb explodes under In Pei's car, sending him flying into a drain. On the other hand, Anda manages to get Zhang out of jail and tells him the plan has changed. Ma Kund could die at any moment, so Zhang must quickly get the location and password of the vault. Zhang rushes to Ma Kund's side, and the dying man apologizes for abandoning him and his mother. He reveals that the information to access the vault is hidden inside the Buddha necklace. Satisfied, Zhang tells Ma Kund the truth. I'm not your son. The real Song died a long time ago. Hearing this, Ma Kund dies. Zhang walks into the living room and announces that Ma Kund is dead. The lawyer reads Ma Kund's will, revealing that Zhang is now the next chairman and heir to all his property. Haida is furious upon hearing this and shoots the lawyer, enraged that his years of loyalty amounted to nothing. A full-blown shootout begins. Haida and his men face off against Zhang, Andu, and Bell in a brutal final battle. But since Haida had so many men, Zhang threw some grenades and escaped, killing a lot of them in the process. However, Haida was still alive and attacked Zhang. At that moment, Andu intervened in their fight, and due to the collision, a massive statue fell on Haida, killing him. And just like that, he joined his boss Ma Kund in the afterlife. After this chaos, Zhang gave Andu the location of the vault and the Buddha necklace. But the moment he got it, Bell pointed a gun at Zhang, and Andu's expressions also changed. That's when it was revealed that Andu was actually a real cop, like Pandu, who had been trying to take over Ma Kund's entire empire for a long time, but never had the opportunity. When Ma Kund himself asked for his help in finding his son, Andu brought Zhang in for the job. Why Zhang? First, because he was a soldier, and second, because he had lost his family to drugs, so he'd complete the mission with full dedication. Also, Bell was working with this Andu, all along. But still, they didn't kill Zhang yet, because they needed him for the next mission. Actually, they had already murdered NP today and were planning to use Zhang's fingerprints on the murder weapon, so it would look like Zhang killed a police commissioner. Then they'd have Savan arrest Zhang for being a drug dealer who murdered a cop. After arresting Zhang, Andu publicly exposed Ma Kund's entire drug operation in a press conference. The very next day, he set up an authority to start cleaning up the drug factories. He burned down all of Ma Kund's production sites and even killed many workers who were poor and helpless, but Andu didn't care. All he wanted was to become the chief commissioner. And after such a massive expose, he was easily promoted to the position. But the man didn't stop his hustle. He kept Bell on the side to hide the drug packages and continue running the business. Later, in the next scene, Andu finally reached Ma Kund's secret vault, where he found $2 billion in cash. He was overjoyed at the sight but decided to complete the rest of his mission first. A few days later, he organized a memorial ceremony for Ma Kund and NP at the same location. The event drew a lot of media attention because no one knew these two were business partners, a police commissioner and a drug lord. Andu had also invited all of Ma Kund's competitors to this event because he had planted a bomb in the room, intending to kill them all during the funeral. As the funeral began, Andu was watching from a nearby building, the same building where the $2 billion vault was kept. He had also brought Zhang there so he could later pin the entire bombing on him. Now, back to the climax. As soon as Nancy came on stage, she greeted the guests and pulled off the curtain, revealing piles of drug packets and photos of people whose lives were destroyed by drug addiction. The guests were in shock, and before they could react, Nancy slipped out the back door of the funeral hall. The hall was immediately locked, and she met Bell outside for an emotional hug, the reason for which was about to be revealed. Andu then detonated the bomb, killing everyone inside the hall. But one of the explosions also hit the vault room where the $2 billion was kept. Andu was stunned to see this and couldn't believe what just happened. That's when Zhang said, "Come, I'll explain." We then learned that Nancy was the daughter of an honest police commander and was also a doctor by profession. She used to work at a rehab center helping drug addicts. That's where she met Bell's younger sister, who was deteriorating due to addiction. Nancy gave her everything she had to help her recover. But after returning home, Bell's sister relapsed and eventually died. At the same time, Nancy's father was killed by Ma Kund's gang because he was an honest man, and Ma Kund couldn't stand honest people. After that, Nancy and Bell came together with a shared purpose, revenge. While helping families under a shelter program, some drug dealers attacked the shelter and demanded money from the residents. Nancy and Bell tried to stop them, but they were outnumbered. Just then, Hero Zhang arrived, beat up the dealers, and drove them away. That incident bonded the three of them, and they decided they'd take revenge together. So, Nancy first approached NP and became his wife. She also gained Andu's attention to manipulate him. Meanwhile, Bell pretended to be a drug dealer and appeared in front of Andu during a raid. When Zhang found out Andu was looking for someone to replace Savan, he came forward, and the rest, you already know. Andu thought he was controlling everyone, but in reality, they were controlling him. Even after all this was revealed, Andu laughed and declared, No one can stop me from becoming a drug lord. He ordered his men to kill Belle and Nancy, and they were shot. But before dying, Nancy activated the explosive in her hand, killing many of Andu's men. Furious, Andu started shooting at Zhang, who fell off the building. Andu thought he had won, but then he looked ahead and saw a camera recording him. That's when we realized everything was being broadcast live on city television. This was all part of Zhang and his team's plan from the beginning. Very soon, the central police chief arrived and arrested Andu. But as they were about to arrest him, Andu tried to run, and they ended his game right there. In the final scene, we see the government helping people living under the bridge to overcome their addictions and rebuild their lives. So if you like this video, please do subscribe to this channel.